Welcome to the Soul Archaeology podcast, a space for connection, resonance, witnessing, and learning. Together we'll harvest medicine from the spiral of life, sharing conversations with other embodied humans who have navigated their own initiations and found alignment with their true soul essence. With weekly astrology, energy updates, embodied conversation, and channeled teachings, this is a space for you to land and find resonance with the spiral of your own soul. Hello, and welcome back to Soul Archaeology. I'm so happy to be here with you on this very Venusian week. We are slowly moving out of the eclipse portal. It officially ends on the new moon in Libra on the 21st. So we're not quite there yet. But this upcoming week has a lot of ripe opportunity for integration, to sort of work in deeper layers of digesting, rearranging, downloading the information that has come through this chaotic time that is eclipse season. Because eclipse seasons are karmically charged, because they hold the energy of karma and fate and endings and beginnings and redirection, they can feel really chaotic. And I know for many of us, eclipse season was intense, and it can be a lot to sort of land on the other side and orient again in the here and now and sit with all of what's unfolded. And I did want to mention last week, I messed up and I said Venus was moving into Venus was moving into Virgo. It's moving into Libra. And so at the end of last week, we had Venus in Virgo forming this opposition with Saturn as it nears the end of its journey in Virgo. So October 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, we have this Venus in Virgo opposing Saturn in Pisces. And this week really holds a sequence of Venusian activations. Venus is very active this week. She lands in one of her homes, which is Libra, on the 14th. Before then, she's getting this sobering checkpoint, being in Virgo, opposing Saturn. And then she gets some support as she moves into Libra. She immediately opposes Neptune in Aries on the 14th. Because Neptune's retrograding in Aries, it's at 0 degrees currently. And this is an important point. We're going to be working with the 0 point of Aries a lot next year. And I've talked a lot about it this year. We've been dancing at the threshold of Pisces and Aries so much over the last year and a half. This will continue into 2026. So with Venus opposing Neptune, Venus in Libra opposing Neptune in Aries on the 14th, it's important to note what starts to surface. There might be some points of breakthrough, some opportunities to resolve or clear something. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment, but I want to kind of go through this week because there's quite a lot of moving parts, and we have some trines that are forming, air and water trines, some trickier oppositions. So I'm just going to go through the week. We can break it down together. This is one of the most magical weeks as far as manifestation, as far as really working with the energy of the planets. So like I said, October 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, Venus is opposing Saturn in Pisces before it shifts into Libra. On the 13th, Pluto stations direct in Aquarius. Pluto's been retrograde since May. It's getting its opportunity to shift direct in Aquarius. That could feel a little jolty. You might not notice it, but there might be some truths or revelations that come through. October 14th, which is my birthday, Venus enters Libra. Like I said, it immediately starts to oppose Neptune in Aries and begins to form a trine with Uranus in Gemini and Pluto in Aquarius. And then we're just kind of sitting with this grand trine in air for a few days, just letting the energy move. Mercury's in Scorpio, so that air energy, communication, intelligence, information, all of it might feel like it flows a little bit easier, which is nice and supportive since Mercury in Scorpio can be a little murky. And then on the 17th, October 17th, the Sun in Libra opposes Chiron in Aries. And we've been building towards this. It's just exact on the 17th. So the whole week is really influenced by this opposition that both the Sun and Chiron are forming with one another. And the other part of that is that the Sun is also squaring Jupiter in Cancer. So I'll talk more about that in a moment, but on the 19th, Mercury and Mars, both in Scorpio, conjoin. So they meet in the underworld together in Scorpio, and then they start to form a grand trine with Saturn in Pisces and Jupiter in Cancer. So we have this grand trine in water that begins to form. And this will really influence the next week as well, as Mercury and Mars form this grand trine with Saturn and Jupiter. There's a whole lot of subterranean material to access when we have a grand trine in water, especially with Scorpio, Mars in Scorpio, Mercury in Scorpio. We get some information. Those are inner planets, so it might be front and center. We might be able to actually touch and feel what it really is. So we have two grand trines. We have an air trine. It's all around awakening, information, data, communication. And then we move into a water trine, which is restorative and deep and emotional. So this is where the heart meets the mind. This is where we get to really maybe break through some things. Trines are supportive aspects. All of it's supportive, but some of it feels a little bit more intense or pressurized or sticky or gritty. Trines are harmonious. It means that planets are within the same element. So the end of last week, the beginning of this week, starts with a very sobering interaction between Venus and Saturn. And Venus in Virgo is sobering. I have that personal natal placement. That is my personal Venus placement. And Venus doesn't love to be in Virgo. It's a little too maybe rigid and serious, a little too sober, a little too controlling maybe. But it's also been helpful for us to sort through a lot of old karmic data, especially because Venus was interacting with the solar eclipse in Virgo, bringing us into old karmic contracts, karmic ties, relational work that needs to be tended. This is realism, relational and emotional realism. There's no more bullshitting, no more bypassing, no more illusions. We have been doing the deep work we have not been able to bypass over the last few months, really this whole year. But we've really been asking for it because we had so much Piscean energy early this year. Mars was retrograde. It was just a little murky. It was sort of hard to get things going, get things started, move forward, sort through what's real and what isn't. And from the summer to now, we have been hit over the head with what's real. We have been quite literally inundated with confrontation, shocking news. We still have this weird energy with Uranus and Gemini with so much information coming in. It's hard to sort through what's real. But when I say what's real, I mean what's real in your body. What's real for you? What is your truth? And so with Venus completing its journey through Virgo, opposing Saturn towards the end, Saturn's at the last degrees of Pisces in its retrograde journey, we're revisiting old material. So this can feel like material that we maybe moved through in the spring, related to values, relationships, money, creativity. This is relational and emotional realism. So this is sobering, a sobering moment of truth for love, finances, self-worth. And Venus in Virgo wants precision and devotion. It wants tangible proof. It wants to put in the work. Saturn in Pisces tests our faith. It really asks where we've dissociated, where we've idealized, what really needs grounding. We're going back with Saturn in Pisces retrograde. We're going back and looking at where are we still living in illusion? Where are we turning a blind eye to the truth? Where are we afraid to see what's really happening? Specifically related to finances, money, relationships. Are you avoiding taxes? Are you avoiding budgeting? Are you avoiding tending to your money? Are you avoiding a conversation that needs to happen in your relationships? Are you avoiding this pattern that you see so clearly happening with your partner? This can feel like disappointment. It can feel like fatigue. You're sick of having to continue to confront these things or look at these things. But what I think this is really revealing is where are we participating in the patterning? Because that's always the breakthrough point. I see this with every single person I work with. We reach a breakthrough point when we can see clearly how we are orchestrating, how we are choosing, how we are creating our reality, even the reality we don't like. And when we can own our participation, we can break out of it. And that's the point of empowerment. And I see it happen. I had 2 clients hit it this week. It was so fun to be in it with them because they had been sort of not looping, but they had just been processing. They needed to sort through the emotional layers of it. But it's always when we release a lot of grief that we get to the real truth. And it's where are we actually choosing this daily? Of course, it can be unconscious, but when we bring it to light, when it becomes conscious again, we hit that breakthrough point. And that's when everything starts to change. And I call that the point of ascension as well. And it's not that we're leaving the body, it's that we are actually ascending from a descent that was essential to reclaim a part of us that needed reclamation or integration. So if you've been having these breakthrough points lately where you're like, oh, I see how I have been choosing that, or I see how that pattern that I am so frustrated with and I'm so done with has actually been keeping me safe, or it's been serving me in some way, even if it's not for your highest good, there is a part of you that's connected to it. So if you've been able to hit that point and just say, hey, I see why we've been doing this. It is okay. But there's another pathway. And let's see if we can start choosing that more often. And this is where Saturn comes in. It loves that maturation. It loves taking ownership. It's like, yeah, let's do it. Let's take ownership. Let's take the reins. Let's change this pattern. So there might be a moment where like a fantasy dissolves or something real emerges, or you're confronted with the real truth of your relationship, or the real truth of your finances, or the real truth of how you connect with others. That's the gift of Venus in Virgo opposing Saturn in Pisces. So as she completes her journey, she then shifts into Libra on October 14th. And before we talk about that, I want to go into Pluto stationing direct in Aquarius, because Pluto does a pretty long run in a retrograde phase every year. It's stationed retrograde in May of this year, and it's stationing direct on October 13th. So we've been in this pot of collective transformation. It's been showing where our power lies, where we feel disempowered or where we feel empowered, or where we are obsessed with power, where we're seeking control. This is in Aquarius, and this is Pluto's first retrograde where it's been fully in Aquarius, where it's been fully in one sign actually for a while. So there's a lot of clarity here, and we're still in the first few degrees of Pluto in Aquarius. So we are just getting started with this transit, and this is about innovation. This is about technology. This is about expansion. This is about consciousness and truth and your voice, expression, responsibility. So wherever Aquarius lands in your chart, you have been in an excavation process since May, looking at where you feel empowered, where you don't, where you're seeking control, where there are perhaps hidden truths that you've needed to excavate. And now we can move into an integration phase where Pluto will move through its shadow phase and we get to start moving forward again. For me, this has been in my 4th house, so it's connected to family, it's connected to home. I've done so much inner child work this summer, I cannot even tell you. I've also had this weird thing where I haven't wanted to leave my home, and I am a Sag moon. I've been dealing with things around freedom and independence and agency and autonomy and detachment and attachment. It's just so clear and it's so real. And I've had to get so deep into my attachment layers that I didn't even know it was possible to get that deep. But it's been really interesting. Even on my walk this morning, I noticed how I'm a very independent person. I like my alone time. I like my space. I am an introvert. And what's so interesting is what's been stripped away over the last 6 months for me is this identity as this hyper independent person. And I have always known some of it's coming from trauma, avoidance, wounding. And what I've been able to access, which wasn't really accessible before, is my deep, deep, deep desire for connection. So I contribute a lot of this to Pluto's journey in my 4th house, getting into deep layers of connectedness, inner mother, inner child, home, belonging. And there are pieces and parts here that are just so deep, so real, so raw, and so powerful. And so I'm just curious where this has been showing up for you, where you've had to really go deeper, even if it hasn't been clear until maybe now when Pluto stations direct. When a planet emerges from the underworld, it brings with it the gifts of its journey underground, what it's been doing, what it's realized, what it's retrieved for us. So we can have revelations that come through over the next few weeks. And then we have Venus moving into Libra on October 14th. And after weeks in that more uncomfortable place in Virgo, forced to confront, to refine, she moves into her sign of balance and harmony and grace. And this is going to be really supportive, especially with this deep scorpionic energy that we have this month. If you've been nitpicking your relationships or trying to control the circumstances of your life or being really self-critical or critical of others, this might give you a little bit of a rest. We've been doing so much internal editing. Can we just enjoy a little bit? One of my favorite quotes, you probably know if you've been here for a while, David Whyte, who's probably my favorite poet. Beauty is a harvest of presence. And I think that connects so much with Venus for me. And specifically Venus in Taurus, but also Venus in Libra, because it notices, it's taking in, it's observing beauty and balance externally. This is a time over the next month for you to surround yourself with beauty, to lean in. Do you love this season, fall, autumn? Lean in. Allow yourself to make the pumpkin bread, to see the fall colors, to make the warm, comforting drink. Just lean in. Harvest the beauty that is found through presence. Maybe go to an art museum or a cafe that really inspires you, or watch a film that lights you up. This is about observing beauty outside of ourselves so that we can access that beauty within, that harmony, that balance. Nature is so important because it's one of the greatest allies of Libra. Nature is naturally balanced. There's a harmony, there's a flow, there's a vibration that just makes sense. And we need that so desperately now, more than ever. We need to remember that some things make sense and that nature makes sense. And the less we mess with it, the more it makes sense. Even just laying on the ground, or putting your back against a tree. Feeling that natural balance is so important during the season. Especially with this grand trine in air, there's going to be a lot of swirly, whirly energy this week. There's going to be a lot of information that comes in, data, revelations. We might be able to just receive it because we have this supportive grand trine, but it can also be a lot. And this grand trine between Venus and Libra, with Uranus and Gemini and Pluto and Aquarius, could bring some breakthroughs around relationships, expression, the mind. This grand trine could clear some stagnancy or open up opportunities for a conversation that needs to be had, or maybe multiple conversations that need to be had. With Mercury and Mars in Scorpio, there's probably a lot that is coming to the surface. You might be getting subconscious breakthroughs. You might be connecting the dots. You might be making sense of things that have just been hidden or unclear before now. And we get to sort of soak in this grand trine energy for a few days. We're going to be having the conversations. We're going to be maybe having the breakthroughs, or even just resting and taking it in, noticing what the mind is doing. It could really be a recalibration point as well. And then the sun starts to form an exact opposition with Chiron on October 17th. And this is about self-awareness. This is about the ego. This is about identity, anger, truth, the self. And the sun isn't super comfortable in Libra. It can feel almost a little fragmented because the sun is the ego, and it likes to be in a sign like Aries or Leo, because it can clearly access the self, the center of self. But in Libra, it gets a little fragmented. It can get a little confused because Libra is a sign of the other. This could be a point of recalibration where we're seeing our wounding around identity, self-perception, attachment, wounds around relationship. With Chiron and Aries, it's really showing us where we are hyper-independent and where we can invite in some interdependence, perhaps. Where our relational wounds lie. Again, Mars and Mercury and Scorpio are helping excavate some of this material too, so it might just be front and center. And because we have the trines, I'm hoping it feels kind of supportive as it comes up. This is my birthday week, so I would prefer not to be hit over the head with confrontational energy, but 2 years ago, in 2023, I had a solar eclipse on my actual birthday, and that was just incredibly intense. That whole year was intense, but this year I'm calling in some peace, some ease. But we have the sun and Chiron opposition, and so it's also squaring Jupiter, so it really is going to expand some of this emotional charge. They'll bring up things around family, lineage, belonging. Belonging is so huge right now. I'm loving watching the world around me sort of orbit around this ancestral work. I'm seeing people all over my social media, my friends, family doing pilgrimages, connecting with their roots, figuring out where they come from, what ancestry they connect with most. And it's so fun because it's so clearly influenced by Jupiter in Cancer. I'm hoping to do an ancestral pilgrimage to Norway next year with my family. And yeah, so this is going to start expanding that and bringing this up more. We're going to see where we hold wounding around self-identity, relationships, independence, interdependence, codependency, anything that's within that Libra Aries axis that really needs tending. And we've been doing that work. If you have your natal Chiron in Aries, I have a lot of clients in my mentorship container currently who have their Chiron in Aries because they're in their Chiron return. And it's such a powerful alchemical point of reclamation. And then on the 19th, we have Mercury and Mars conjoining in Scorpio. And then they begin to form this grand trine with Saturn and Jupiter. And so this is where our mind and body merge. Mercury is the mind. It's the messenger of the gods. So it's where we receive the downloads, the information, the messages. It's where the mind turns on. Mars is raw life force. It's will, it's drive, it's passion. Mercury and Mars in Scorpio really pierce through illusions. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty. This is, especially Mercury in Scorpio, can be a little murky, but when it hits something, it can be really sharp and even biting. With Mars in Scorpio, there is this sort of like this slow build, this heat that begins to build. And then there's this point where it can just explode. So the thing with Scorpio is that most of it exists underground, subterranean. It's almost like an iceberg. So most of the power is hidden. And then when it builds enough, that Scorpio tail can come out, or it can just be pure embodied power. It's not coming from a wound. So we might feel a lot of pressure, desire to act, desire to respond, intensity that's coming through, revelations, underworld material, subconscious information and data that comes up that wants to be seen. With the trines, there is some support here to actually communicate it, to break through, to have some support as far as communicating, releasing, transmuting. With Saturn and Jupiter involved, it can really ground. So it can give some of this energy a place to go. It can give it some purpose. So this might look like you really getting clear on what your actual purpose is, what you want to do for the next phase and next chapter. This might be this surge of passion or this surge of clarity or this surge of desire. And there might be a perfect space for it to land. And this trine is active for a few days, so there's definitely a lot to work with here. And this whole week provides a lot of opportunity. It might not all be comfortable, of course, but with the trine energy, I think we're going to have some breakthrough points. This is one of the better weeks of this month, even better weeks of this season to get clear, to action, to orient, to bring things through, to bring things up. I am very excited because I am receiving some very clear information, downloads around the group container I'm creating for next year. So just dropping a few hints here, but it will be a space for you to both learn and integrate astrology and truly embody it. So I'm very excited for this offering that's percolating, and hopefully we'll have more information in the coming weeks for you. I just feel like 2026 is the year. I know I've been talking about how the last 5 years have been liminal years where we've been back and forth, push and pull. When is it starting? When is it beginning? When am I doing it? What is going on? 2026 is the year where things are really going to take off. And it can feel really chaotic. So I want to create a space for us to work together, to have community, to have support, to have a whole compass through this year. I also have space at the end of this year, the last space until my mentorship, my private mentorship changes forever. So if you've been wanting to work with me one-on-one, I'm taking clarity calls through October. We begin late October, November. I'm so excited for the people that I meet, the new people I'll be meeting this fall. I love doing these clarity calls too because I get to meet so many of you that I haven't met before. So it's just so fun. I met with some incredible people this week. And if you've been wanting some one-on-one guidance and support through change and transformation, this mentorship is for you. I'm linking more in the show notes. You can book a clarity call. The clarity call is just for mentorship inquiries. And I have all of my pricing. Everything's very clear and transparent on my landing page because I just don't like using those deceptive marketing tactics where they don't tell you how much things are and what you're actually getting until you sign up for something or fill out a form, whatever. I like to just operate from a very transparent place. So thank you for being here. I wanted to talk about the cards that I pulled for today, and 2 cards came flying out, so they both wanted to be seen. The first one is Gazelle. And both of these are from the Untamed Elemental deck. We are not complete with this deck yet. I keep checking in and it's like, nope, this is it. So we're getting some cool, clear messages from this deck. And it's been fun to literally work with one deck through this whole podcast. So I have a feeling we'll switch, but for now we're here. And so I pulled the Gazelle card, and it's about change of direction. And it says, Gazelle dances across the continental horizon, alert, light of foot, and vibrating with unopposed grace. His beauty is a spell cast upon the world. He approaches his environs with vigilance and is protected by the safety of the herd. As one, they strive with confidence and bravery, surviving via telepathic innate communication. Gazelle's capacity for imaginative improvisation allows him to outsmart and outrun his predators. His name comes from the Arabic word ghazal, meaning love poem, and this light and fast animal is drawn to you when it's time to change direction. When manifesting a desired outcome, there are phases when progress is slow or altogether absent. Gazelle suggests that sometimes a solution comes through a sudden shift in perspective. A fresh and even drastically changed outlook offers great inspiration. Move decisively in a new direction, and you have the opportunity to fall back in love with your original vision. Gazelle is a love poem, spontaneous and full of heart. As you begin to embody these qualities, there is room for unimagined possibilities to emerge. The next card is the Seashell card, and it's all about spiritual growth. Her nautical structure is immaculate. She is an evolutionary protector of life. Seashell is born with precision, forged to embody robust stability, carried by waves and tides. She is a guardian of life, promoting harmonious tranquility and the sincere, courageous benevolence of spiritual growth. She is definite and unparalleled. Seashell is an auspicious insignia of your unfolding evolution and validates that you are on a path of true spiritual development. Spirit enlists Seashell's immaculate design and ability to weather a myriad of conditions as a metaphor, asking that you recognize all things as coming from the same source of intelligence that generates, organizes, and dissolves the entirety of life in this universe. If you choose it to be so, every loss, mistake, fear, pleasure, and reckoning are in service to your self-realization. At this point in your evolution, it is impossible for you to leave the path. With that in mind, why not enjoy the full, beautiful, evolutionary experiment? Rest in the unshakable truth that you are traveling upward on a golden spiral and there's no going back. Thank you for being here. I love both of those cards. I just want you to be able to sink into them. As always, I so appreciate you sharing this episode with someone you love, sharing on social media. It's just so appreciated. That's how the podcast grows. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful week, and I will see you next week.